we're gonna get the show on the road here. It looks like we can say welcome spring a little bit early, but the trees are blooming and the wildflowers are out. So I think we're over the hump for winter. So that's a good thing. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Nancy Copperman. I'm the president of Wilco NIPSOT. And tonight we have a really kind of timely and very important discussion by Jessica Woods, really dealing with the drought that we're experiencing now, which seems not to be so transient anymore. And there's been a lot of attention on this, where we get our water from, how long are we going to get our water from, and the quality of the water that we have. So I think this will be a very interesting talk that will really bring up the discussion we need to have in Williamson County and in other counties in Texas, but locally for here. So hopefully you'll be able to glean some things and bring it home and have these discussions and advocacy in your own neighborhoods. Tonight we're actually presenting from the Round Rock Public Library, in case you want to know where we're meeting tonight. So to continue on our local native plant drought survivors, tonight's plant is curly mesquite grass. It's a grass that can grow up to 1 foot tall, but usually is a lot shorter than that. It's a drought tolerant turf grass. So one of the reasons why we're kind of featuring this tonight is that if you're thinking of redoing your lawn, this is an excellent turf grass to try to bring the natives in, that you can still have a green lawn in the summer, but it's extremely drought tolerant. It goes dormant in the winter, so that means it will kind of brown out. Very, very low water, loves full sun, and it likes the kind of soils we have around here, dry, sandy, well-drained soils. And basically you'll see the bloom, which is kind of right here on the top left of the picture, in August, October, and deer resistant, basically, moderate. So they, can graze on it, but as you get this established, and you can start this by seed and mix this with other grasses that are also kind of low growing and water tolerant, drought tolerant and low water requirements. So it's something to consider if you're thinking of kind of ripping up your lawn and starting over. This would be a nice grass to put in there. Upcoming programs, we kind of have a little bit of a switch. On April 11th, Randy is going to be speaking about drought tolerant native plants. Nothing works like natives. She had given this presentation in an area event and it was sold out, and they want her to come back and do it again for them. So we kind of co-opted her to give this to us at the Georgetown Public Library next month. And then we have a couple of other very interesting talks. Susan Reynolds, archaeology and ethnobotany, very interesting. And then Beth, who was originally going to be speaking in April, is now going to be speaking in June. And this is kind of a follow-up to the seed propagation and speech or lecture that we had earlier in the fall, and that'll be back here at the Round Rock Library. Just as a FYI, the June 13th meeting will not be Zoom because it's going to be very hands-on and you're going to need to see a lot of different things. And we felt that to try to Zoom it, the people online really wouldn't really get the best or the most out of it. So if you want to know about this, you need to come. And it'll be back here at the Round Rock Public Library. Field trips committee, very, very active, great group. And they're also still looking for someone to kind of be their chair. So if you're interested, please contact us. You can go to the website. We have a contact form, and more than happy to kind of, bring you in. Or if you're interested in joining the field trip committee that plans these, I'd love to have you. This is what's coming up. We have a St. Patrick's Day spring tree walk here in Round Rock. and so the continuing surveys that we have, and some other interesting field trips that are coming up in April and May. So look for the blog announcements that'll have more details of where and when and how you kind of connect on these particular trips. Projects. We've also been very busy with different projects. There was one in February, Rock Native Plant Garden Restoration. They had asked us to come and partner with them in restoring kind of their gardens and the native plants that were put in to kind of rejuvenate it and help them establish the native plants again. So this is just a picture of us partnering with one of their staff, and thanks to the members below who are participating in that. We have some upcoming projects that we're looking for volunteers for. Rock is still right on center for kids garden rehab is still needs, follow up and help on that. The Pollinator Garden Workday at the Williamson County Landfill will be coming up. The Wilco Spring in-person plant sale is April 6th. We're looking for volunteers tonight. We have an in-person sign up, and then we're also going to post for people who are interested where they need to contact to volunteer on that. I think this year we're going to be really, really busy because people are really looking for natives because all of their tropicals and things that they purchased that need a lot of water are now completely dead, and they don't want to necessarily spend money on those again. So they're going to be looking for natives. So I think that'll be a very busy day. The other exciting thing that we found out is that Georgetown is having a Georgetown Prairie Restoration Project at the old Georgetown landfill. It's 42 acres that they're basically going to be restoring to prairie. So they have reached out to us to partner with them in planning this and actually helping the restoration. So I believe that there's been or it's scheduled a kind of survey with them to kind of look and see what's there and kind of what's needed and what their plans are. So that's extremely exciting, and more to come on that. And again, just, look out for our blog, and we'll be posting when we need volunteers on that, and love to have you. The more the merrier. These are just some of the previous events that we had in the community. And again, anyone who would like to help and join us in these things, it's just a lot of fun, and it really gets native plants out there. We participated in the Georgetown Conservation Summit, and we distributed bluebonnets, as well as one of our members, Beth Irwin, gave the keynote address speaking about natives. And at our table, she had our plant signs of all the different plants that she was talking about in her lecture. So a lot of people were taking pictures and looking to see what they would need or where they could get it, things of that nature. So I thought that was very well attended and worth our time and effort. Sun City Nature Club lecture. This was the one I was talking about that Randy gave. It was at full capacity, and they would like her to come back and do a repeat of the same lecture. And we grabbed her, so she's going to be here in April. So just when you see the interest in native plants, you see where the community is now realizing who we are, what we do, and looking to us for our expertise. So I think that's extremely exciting. We have a couple of other upcoming education and community events, the Round Rock Earth Day and the Gary Park Family Nature Fest. So a lot of spring events coming up. Most important one is our annual plant sale. It's in person on April 6th. Luckily for us, the eclipse is that Monday, not on the day we chose. But I think we'll probably have a lot of visitors in town anyway, so maybe they'll come. It's at the same place that we held it last year, Champion Park, Pecan Pavilions. We start in the morning, and then, we go from there. The plant list is being finalized basically as we speak tonight. And we will be posting the available plant list online shortly. We will also be posting the online sale for the larger plants and trees and shrubs. Those will be purchased prior to the plant sale, but you will pick them up at the plant sale. It just helps us in bringing some of the heavier items in, and it'll be in a way similar than it was last year. So looking forward to that. I would say there'll probably be a lot of demand. So if you're looking for something special, look at the list and get there early. For those who came tonight, as we always do, there's a benefit. We have free plants. They are the Tahoka Daisy and the Texas Yellow Star. Both of these plants are annual plants that will self-sow in the area that you have, so that next year you'll see them kind of come up again, assuming that assuming that the conditions are good. So that's what we have here in person. So if you want to get a free plant, then come to the meeting and join us. Also, as another benefit for those that come in person, we are raffling off our speaker's book recommendation tonight. And this book is by Charles Fishman, and it's called The Big Thirst. So everyone who's in here, if you haven't gotten a raffle ticket, just see Nancy in the back table, and she will more than happily give you her raffle ticket so that you could be in it to win it. If you're ever looking to get a hold of us, we have different ways that you can kind of interact with us. Most important, if you want to know what's happening and get timely info, our blog is the way to go. So you just need to go in and sign up for the blog, and you'll get our emails that we send out on that. We don't sell anything. There won't be any advertising, but it's a great way to keep connected. As always, we're kind of bouncing around from multiple locations. Right now, we're in 3 of them. Now we alternate, monthly. So usually when we have the meeting announced on the blog, it will say where the meeting is. So this way, if you're going to come, at least you come to the correct place, and you're not sitting alone at some other library trying to zoom in, online with their computer. So we'd hate to have that happen. So without further ado, I'd like to call up our speaker, Jessica Woods, and we'll just switch presentations. Okay, so Jessica, come on in. So Jessica Woods has worked with the City of Round Rock's Water Conservation Program as a coordinator since 2009. She manages all aspects of the growing city's conservation program, drought outreach, and education efforts on a tight budget. Jessica earned a Master's of Applied Geography degree from Southwest Texas State University, and she is the Texas Section AWWA Conservation and Reuse Division Chair, as well as a certified Master Naturalist. So Jessica, thanks for speaking to me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I like to always say that I graduated from Southwest Texas University, because if you're a Texan from this area, you know that dates me. You know that was the name of the school before they changed it to Texas State University. So I just like to say that that's what my diploma says. So I feel like that's the school I graduated from, not Texas State University. So I was a little nervous to come here and present tonight, because I was thinking drought. I was thinking everybody, like Nancy said, everybody's very interested in drought tolerant plants right now. And I am not going to talk about plants at all. I'm not going to say a single thing about them, just because I feel like y'all are the experts. And I do not want to be corrected about anything that I say. So I'm going to keep it to, I'm going to try to talk about a lot of other things. And I'm going to try to do it all. Well, we're going to get it done in less than 45 minutes, but we're going to start kind of high end statewide, and then bring it down locally and bring it down to, you at your property as well. And then I have some things that we can give, that you're welcome to pick up at the very end of the presentation, and a few little, to say some, I'm blanking on the words, but anyway, some props I'm going to use during the presentation. But I'm going to start off by saying, can anybody tell me who knows what this rock is, that this picture is? Who can tell me that? Yay, I was going to say native round rocks. This is the round rock. I like to include that in all my presentations just because there's people who don't even know that round rock was really named after a rock, and this is there's that rock. There's that round rock. One year my family, this is going to get us off topic and use up time, but one year my family, like when the water was low like it is now, walked out there and we did family portraits all on the round rock and everything. So I almost stuck that in here just to be like super nerdy, but I did not. I was like, it's good to see it. I know. So my kids are really cute in it. Okay, so we're going to start off first statewide, looking at the state. If y'all are ever interested or wondering who decides where the water's going or how is water usage handled by the state of Texas has a water agency called the Texas Water Development Board. And they do all this water planning for the state. The state is divided up into these 13, I'm going to forget, and I like to walk a lot, so I'm going to try not to walk up to the screen. It's divided up into these different planning regions. We're located in Region G, which is the Brazos. This is not a pointer, is it? The ran on top, I would say. The state's divided into different planning regions. We're here in that purple section in Region G, part of the Brazos River Basin. But before I get into that, I just want to say the Texas Water Development Board does great research. If you're really interested in knowing how much water do we have in the entire state, how much water does each individual city, does each water utility, each municipality think they're going to use any given year for the next 50 years in the state, you can find it on this website. It's up there at the top, texasstatewaterplan.org. It's a fantastic online tool that you can search anything. You can look for specific cities. You can look for specific water areas. It's fascinating. And the state has to create these plans. I believe it's every 5 years. And the whole city or the whole state works together to create this plan. I'm going to drill down just a little bit into Region G, again, where Williamson County is located. We're part of the Brazos River Basin. And I think that's confusing to a lot of people who move here who are new. We're closer to Austin. Austin is in the Colorado River Basin. We get a lot of news about the Colorado River, but Williamson County, most of Williamson County is not in the Colorado River Basin. We are in the Brazos River Basin. So we don't always care. That's terrible to say. We do care, but we don't always care about the news coming out of the Colorado River Basin because we are in the Brazos. But again, if you are interested in knowing like what's Round Rock going to do, what's Georgetown going to do, you can go again to some of these. I think the website, it's not on there, but you can click on here. Again, you can look city by city to say, okay, Round Rock has a population of this much, has a water need of this many million gallons. We think by the year 2070, we're going to need this much water. I feel like I'm going to wait for that to finish. I hope I was going to say, there was one this morning. I hope they found that kid. So we're going to see if there's a deficit between the population, what the needs are, and how much water we have. How do these cities and how do these municipalities, how are they going to meet those needs? So you can see what everybody's plans are. Is it to build reservoirs? Is it to use more reuse water? Is it to do more aquifer storage and recovery? Is it, gray water systems? What is it? What are these different utilities plans? It's really interesting to just go in there and search, and you can spend a lot of time just looking at everybody's plans. And I'll just say not all the plans that are listed in there are feasible. There's some stuff that just is kind of crazy sounding. You're like, this is never going to happen. And the state realizes that. And then starting with this next planning cycle, they're going to take out things that they deem not feasible. So if it's just something so outlandish, or just in some ways building new reservoirs is very outlandish. It's hard to find land to, dam up, property to buy. And build, and the cost for that. So some of that is not feasible. So they're going to try to make it more reality based. But anyway, it's fantastic to read and look at. So also going with the state and more planning, I just want to touch briefly on groundwater conservation districts. You'll notice in Williamson County and most of Travis County, we're a white area, which means there is no groundwater conservation district. And a lot of people are pretty upset by this. This just means that the groundwater is not necessarily regulated here in this county. If you own the property, if you have a well, you can pretty much take out as much as you want. You know, it's the rule of capture for the state. Other counties around us, as you can see, do have groundwater conservation districts, which does mean that they limit their customers, they limit the groundwater, how much can be drawn out of some of the different wells. And I've been to some meetings in one of the counties next to us, and they are very not happy about Williamson County. They feel like Williamson County, we're stealing all of their groundwater. And I'm not going to argue that that's true or not true. But I do agree that maybe we need to regulate it a little bit more than it is currently. So there is a way to create groundwater conservation districts. It's just very hard is what it seems like. You have to get a lot of signatures. You have to take it to the legislature, the state legislator, get it approved. It has to be, it's basically an active local Congress to get it made. And I know a few years ago, was anybody here involved with trying to get a groundwater conservation district implemented in Williamson County? A few years ago, I know people were going around getting signatures for that. And I thought maybe it was really going to happen, but it did not. So anyway, we're kind of the Wild West here still, where we allow a lot of pumping of groundwater. All right, so what are the water sources that we're using here in Williamson County? Well, I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I am going to talk about the ones here in Round Rock, since that's where we're located right now. So on this map, you can see a lot of different things. The purple hash mark area is the aquifer, is the Edwards Aquifer. Round Rock does take water out of the Edwards as well as Georgetown. We take a lot of water from there. Well, Round Rock doesn't take that much out of there. Most of our water is coming from Lake Georgetown, which is located in Georgetown, and also Lake Stillhouse Hollow. And then Round Rock has been taking water out of Lake Travis for the last, I think this summer will make 3 years that we've been doing that. City of Georgetown mostly gets water from groundwater, and then Lake Georgetown and Lake Stillhouse Hollow as well. And then Cedar Park and Leander, I believe, are 100% Lake Travis water. So we are pretty diversified. Round Rock also has a pretty good reuse water system where we, at our wastewater treatment plant, we clean the water up and then we resell it and we send it out to a lot of new development, mostly on the east side of town, like the ACC College, the Texas State University College, Vizcaya neighborhood, all those new neighborhoods that are coming in right there. And it's Kalahari, Forest Creek. A lot of them are using it for irrigation water along their properties. And it is required if a new development is happening within that reuse water line. They do have to connect to that and use that as irrigation water. So they're not using, potable water. I know there is talk, I feel like I need to say, there is talk about the Carrizo Wilcox Aquifer. It's not on this map, but it is located in the far eastern part of the county. And I know there is talk with, well, maybe it's not, I was going to say the city of Georgetown trying to start using some of that water in the future. There's talk about that. But since I don't work with the city of Georgetown, I shouldn't speak of that. But I know that they are looking for different water sources. All right, so let's look more specifically at what we're doing here in Round Rock in terms of water, where our water comes from. So our water treatment plant is way down south. Well, down at the bottom of this map is Round Rock, and the water treatment plant icon is there off of Westinghouse Drive, where water treatment plant is located in the Texas Crushed Stone facility. So if you're ever stuck in traffic on I-35 headed either direction and look over towards the west in Texas Crushed Stone, there's some buildings with blue roofs. That's all of our water treatment plants. So it's a really nice location is the funny thing, even though it's in the quarry. one of our main water source, is Lake Georgetown, located in Georgetown. And then we also have a pipeline. I don't know how many of you are aware, but up Lake Stillhouse Hollow is connected to Lake Georgetown with that 31-mile pipeline, that red line, where we can essentially transfer water from one water basin into the other water basin. Lake Georgetown will never go dry, essentially, because we can move water from one place to another. We don't keep Lake Georgetown is not kept at a certain level. It's not kept at a constant level, but water is transferred as needed. How much water, you might be asking? Well, it depends on how many pumps are turned on. There's small pumps, there's large pumps. Right now, there's large pumps have been running for about 2 years now, and it's transferring 42 million gallons of water per day from Lake Stillhouse Hollow to Lake Georgetown. So it's a lot of water. Lake Stillhouse Hollow is a much larger lake, you can see from that map, and it also has fewer water customers on it. So that's really the thought process behind why the Army Corps of Engineers and the cities of Georgetown and Round Rock are transferring the water, because Lake Georgetown just runs out. I mean, it just goes low very quickly. If you were here in 2011, the lake got very low. That was its all-time lowest. So it's pretty scary. I think that's it with that. And then here, I just want to show you another website, also from the Texas Water Development Board. This is fascinating water information. It's called, I'll show you in another slide, but it's called Water Data for Texas. It says way up here at the very top corner. But you can go in, well, I'll show it in a minute, the main page. But Lake Georgetown, so this is like their current lake level. And I know you can't read some of these numbers, but I just want you to look at this graph where it looks like, okay, Lake Georgetown is doing okay, then it starts dipping down. And then now, just these last few months since January, it looks like the water level's rising a whole lot. Gosh, if we look down here, it says 6 months ago, the lake was 46% full. And then a month ago, it was 67% full. And now currently it's 72% full. Well, we haven't had that much rain. Right, we've had some rain. We haven't really had any rain in March. We didn't really have that much in February. What we had is not filling this lake up that much. My point here is it's that water being transferred from Lake Stillhouse Hollow over to Lake Georgetown and essentially filling this lake up, so it makes it look like there's a lot of water in there. But in reality, it's not. I mean, it's the same. We look at both of those lakes as a system, Lake Stillhouse Hollow, Lake Georgetown. So when we're working our drought plans and going into drought restrictions, those volumes of water are used in combination versus just looking at one lake level by itself, because it could be an erroneous number. It would look like, oh gosh, we've had a lot of rain. If I were to look at this by itself, not realizing that this was connected to another lake, go, oh, we must have had a whole lot of rain lately, and all that water, is not soaking into our yards anymore. It's just rolling off and filling up the lake. So that's fantastic, but that's not true. Unfortunately, it's just water being transferred from the other lake. So all that being said, it's a lot of good information. It's a lot of good information on this website if you're interested in historical things. So what's our current lake levels right now? So this was taken a day or two ago. Lake Georgetown, like I said, is at 72% full. Lake Stillhouse Hollow is at 60% full. And then Lake Travis is still at like this record low, basically at 38% full, which is very, very alarming. And then you can see I've just decided for fun to put the last dates that these lakes were full. 2019 was the last time Lake Georgetown was full, like full to 100% is what I'm considering full in these numbers. So it's been quite a few years that these lakes were full. So we're due, I think, for some tropical storm or something. We'll see what I'm hoping it starts raining out here tonight. I want to see like the rain start pouring down out here. Because it better happen. But anyway, because we're looking at these lake levels and the weather conditions moving forward, that makes us think about drought and what's going to happen with the drought restrictions. But we'll talk about that in a second. Here's just that website again. I mentioned it on this last slide, waterdatafortexas.org at the bottom. And then here, It's the same website. This again is just the Water Development Board has fascinating information. If you want to know anything really about water in the state of Texas, this is the website to go to. Tell you about precipitation, surface water, some groundwater information, any water, any lake in the state, any reservoir in the state. It's just fascinating information. And this is just the screenshot of the main page, the very top of the main page. And then all the different colors here are all the different dots are each of the different reservoirs in the state. And then by the graph down here, you can see how full they are. So obviously the darker the blue, it's probably at 100% full. And then as it gets to yellow, it's kind of moderately full, and then orange and then red is extremely low. So funny that all these in the north and kind of the east of Texas are doing pretty well versus South and Central and West Texas. We're all kind of struggling here just a little bit with our reservoir level. And I'm telling you, water nerds, this is your website to go to for sure. And then local drought. This is the drought map from last week. I didn't actually look at it today, but you can see that Williamson County, we're still here. Most of the state looks really good. We're still here kind of in this moderate drought and severe drought area. And I just wanted to see, here's where we were last year at this time. So the state's looking a whole lot better compared to last year. Here's currently and last year. So not too bad. All right. So now we're going to bring it down a little bit more and say, what can you do to save water more specifically versus just finding out more information about water, about what's going on in the area? What can you do specifically? Know your water devices. We're going to talk about a lot of different things to let you know what those water devices are. Efficient water fixtures. I just want to put a little plug in for the WaterSense program. That's what this label is here. If you're familiar with Energy Star, you know that buying something with that Energy Star logo means you're getting an energy efficient appliance. That's what WaterSense is for water appliances. So look for this logo if you're buying a new toilet, if you're buying a new shower head, faucets, look for this label and you know you're getting a good water efficient appliance that has been third-party tested, you know, to save water and retain its water savings. And then use common sense. And I'm sure y'all all know this, but we're going to talk about that just a little bit too. I just like to say, if it's going to rain tonight, why are we watering our yards this morning? Or why is somebody watering their yard right now? We just know a sprinkler system's going off out there somewhere. So, so I'm like, if you wouldn't, anyway, use your common sense. So the first thing I want you to do is look at your water bills. Do you even know how much water you use at your property? I'm not talking about looking at the dollar amount you're paying because that's kind of irrelevant, as you'll see with these two bills that I have here. But know how much water, know how many gallons you're actually using. And then we can talk about, is that even a high number? Maybe you're already like really conservative. Is that a low number? Is that a high number? What kind of number is that? So the first thing you need to do is actually look at your usage. And I would say, look at one of your bills during the winter time. So like this month's bill, March's bill, February bill, maybe April's bill, because you're billed the month after you use the water. So like your March bill is really for February's usage, your February bills for January's usage. So look sometime in the wintertime when you know that you weren't using any water outside, when you weren't watering your grass, when you weren't filling up pools, when you weren't doing any of that typical stuff outdoors playing, you're just really using water inside. And I just have two examples of water bills. This one on the left, the black one, is a City of Round Rock water bill. This is the second page, the back page of it. The first page does have a little graph, a little water usage graph, but on the back page near the top, it says total consumption in gallons. And this person used 12,400 gallons this month, total consumption gallons. And then you can see right under that, it tells you the price of this. So 12,000 gallons at $2.49 per 1,000 gallons. So, and then here's just the cost of the water, $30. So look at that. And then it tells you all this other stuff. Well, I'm not going to go into that, but you have your wastewater, solid waste, which is your trash, stormwater or drainage fees, but all kinds of different things. So this other bill, the colorful one over here, is an example of a City of Georgetown water bill. And same thing on theirs, they have a little graph up here on this top area where I've put a square around it. This person used 1,000 gallons. So it says usage 1 and this is 1,000 gallons. So 1,000 gallons, they've got a little graph. And then down here too, in kind of that middle section, it says current usage, 1,000 gallons. So again, you can see how much water was used at these two properties or at these two different bills. But I want to kind of point out why this is why I don't care about dollars. This bill, the dollar amount is $102 for this monthly bill, and the Georgetown one is $108 for the bill. So even that person used a whole lot less water. Their bill is more than the other person who used more water. So my point is, dollar amount really doesn't matter when you're talking about how much water you're using, because somebody like me, I can't judge how much water you're using by the dollar amount, because there's so many fees and every utility charges a different amount. So it makes zero sense. So I will reveal one thing, and that's that I think both of these are, well, I was going to say, I think both of these are my bills from different times of my life. This Georgetown one is my family's bill just from this last month. Actually, there's 2 adults that live in the house full time and 2 dogs that live in this house full time. So water usage is pretty low. And I know what you're thinking. How cute are these dogs that live in the house? There's my dogs that I like to put funny hats on and make them torture them. But that's my one joke for this. That's my joke for this, for this presentation. How cute are these dogs? So look at your water bill. And then the next thing, back to seriousness, after you look at your water bill, so you know how much water you're actually using, the next thing you need to do is locate your water meter. You should know where your water meter is on your property. I would imagine everybody does at this point, because you have lived here through a freeze and you've had to go out there and check it and make sure that there wasn't a leak or anything on it. But look at your water meter. Can you find where the water meter is in these pictures? Is it hidden under a native area? In this property, the water meter is actually under these stones and under the mulch here. We had a hard time finding it at this house. In this area, the viney area, the meter is actually all hidden in the vines. This is part of the irrigation system. And then this water meter is just all covered up with grass. So we had to find it, but it's just keep your water meter open. I was trying to think of the right word. Just make sure it's cleared off, make sure it's visible. If you have a water leak at your house, you're going to want to run out there and be able to turn it off. So yay, find it. And then keep it clean, keep the grass off of it. Don't cover it up with mulch just because it looks ugly. I hear a lot of people, I go to people's houses a lot for my job, talk to a ton of people, and most of them, we have to show them, here's where your water meter is, here's how to turn things off if you need to. But a lot of these people say, oh, I didn't like the looks of that, so I just covered it up with mulch, or I planted all these plants on top of it. And it's like, I understand that, I get it. But at the same time, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard, because if there is an emergency, where are you going to go? You're going to say, out there's the meter. And then the person's going to have to just have their broom or something out there running, trying to find that plastic box lid. So have it free and clear already, and then know how to turn it off in case you do have an emergency. So these are all just different examples of what meters lids could look like. It could be a little plastic lid. This is a single meter as well. In this box in Round Rock, most of our meters are double, like there's 2 meters per box, one for your house and one for your neighbor. They just share the box. And then down at the bottom, at this bottom connection is where the city, that's where we're going to turn the water off. If we ever need to turn water off to your house, we're not going to mess with anything past above the water meter. We're going to look at this bottom part. So your homeowner cutoff is going to be somewhere up here in one of these little tubes. Maybe it's inside the meter box itself, this blue handle, or maybe it's in another tube. You can see the handle down here in this tube. So you need to locate, if you even have one of those at your house. It might, again, be covered up. Stick your hand down in there with the glove in case there's something down there, and clear out any dirt, any debris that's down in there, and see if there's a handle so you'll be able to turn your water off if you need to. Maybe there's not even a handle in there. Maybe it's been rusted off at this point. It's up to you. It's up to the homeowner to repair that or get that replaced. The city does not do that. We don't, because it's private property. We'll just replace the meter and back. But anything past the water meter is the homeowner's responsibility. So make sure, you do have a handle. This blue handle, would just be to shut off the water. And then I would say, once you do locate that, you need to exercise it regularly. You need to go out there at least once a year and just oil it or turn it on and off and make sure it's still working for you. Because if you do have a leak, you don't want to be going, what am I supposed to do? You want to know, oh, I know what to do. Let me just go shut off the water, case closed. So peace of mind, get it done. And then if you have a sprinkler system, even more boxes for you in your yard. You might have this other green rectangular box. You might have, even if you don't have a sprinkler system, you might have another little green box too. Typically it's a pressure regulator. Inside this, I see a lot of those fail at people's houses where their water pressure is decreasing inside their house. They say, that happened to my own house last year. It's like we couldn't flush a toilet and run the shower at the same time. Two things could not run at the same time. It's like, what is going on with our house? And it turns out we had a pressure reducing valve or pressure regulating valve out, by the meter. Didn't know it was there because it was buried under grass. We didn't know. And it just needed to be replaced because when they fail, it looks like a bell shaped. I'll just use my cup. It kind of looks like this, but when they fail, it's like the lid kind of falls down on it. So it fails in the closed position, which reduces the water pressure, which allows less water to flow through it. So if you think your whole house, and if it's maybe 20 or 30 years old, probably closer to the 30, is having less water pressure, it might be a failure of the pressure reducing valve. And then moving on to irrigation, inside this other green rectangular box is something like this, a backflow prevention device. I forgot I was going to bring one to show it in person. If you ever just need to cut off water to the irrigation system, or if you have a leak in the irrigation system and just need to isolate that so you're not wasting water, you just turn off one of these handles if able. A backflow prevention device has two handles. Just turn one, which stops the flow to the irrigation system. All right, that I feel like I needed to get all of that out of the way because it's a lot of good information. I feel like a lot of homeowners don't know about their properties. And with a lot of new people moving here. So, and then there's always, of course, what I'm not touching on is how to read your water meter. But everybody's water meter is different. I think let me look. I think I had one other. I didn't mention this as well. I forgot to mention this. Up here, there's a portal, both Georgetown and Round Rock, and I know Cedar Park, and I just didn't put theirs on if anybody's from Cedar Park. Go look, you have a customer portal where you can log in and Georgetown's isn't fully operational yet in terms of seeing, viewing your water usage, but you can, in Round Rock and Cedar Park, you can view like your hourly water usage, your daily water usage, your weekly water usage. So you can see that, and you can also sign up for leak alerts. Essentially, if the water meter is registering 24 hours of continuous flow at your house, considered a leak, you can sign up to receive a text message or an email in case you have that. But Round Rock has that, Georgetown has it, Cedar Park has it. So go find your utilities page and sign up for those. And I just wanted to show you these cute dogs again. That's really what it is. It took me a long time to find just the right picture to put in there. It's too much time doing that. Okay, so now we're just going to talk about outdoor water usage a little bit because indoor water usage is pretty well regulated. We have plumbing codes, we have efficiency standards where, talking about water sense again, if you're buying a appliance, you can pretty much buy a water efficient appliance inside your house. And outside is where water usage is more very variable. That's why we have to go into water restrictions because I say we generally speaking, we are all collectively using too much water out on our lawns. Where if nobody had water usage outside, we probably would never have to go to water restrictions, right? Because it would just be the water usage inside of our houses. But there's a lot of new people to the area. They have a lack of understanding of, their irrigation controller. I have some here that we can talk about later. Their plants, they don't even know what these plants are. They don't understand the soil here. They don't understand how much water they need. They might have a perception of my yard needs to be perfectly green. My neighbor's is perfectly green. Mine should be perfectly green. How come mine doesn't look like theirs? And lots of people concerned about how their yard looks, not thinking for a minute, is that a reasonable thought or not? Oh, it's July, it's 105 degrees. My yard needs to be perfectly green. Well, that's unrealistic. It's crazy in my mind that people are still thinking that. In nature, if we go out there, we're not always seeing, sometimes you do see really great green yards or native areas, but it's native grasses. They're better soils. They're not used to getting watered on a regular basis. They're using the water that's down in the ground. And I think it's possible to have a great looking yard with very little water. So we just need to keep teaching people how to get there. So that's what we're going to talk about next. So how do we start using water smartly? And the first thing, when I like to talk about irrigation, and when I was coming in today, I don't know if y'all know Chip, who is a librarian, and he sits at the front desk a lot of times, but he's really funny. And I'm like, I'm going to give a presentation. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I go, what am I? I'm talking about water. And he goes, how much water does this use? And I go, I'm not talking about plants at all. I'm not talking about plants, but the plant is going to use whatever waters that's there realistically. But if there's no water, there's not going to be any water there if there's no soil there. So the first thing we need to talk about is soil, because your soil, y'all probably know this. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. If you have no soil, if you have no holding capacity, the water's just going to run off the property. So there's no point in even irrigating anything if it's just going to run off. If you just have bedrock under there, if your soil is so compacted where no water can get through, it's not going to hold anything. You're not going to be able to grow anything, and you're just going to be watering for no good reason. So make sure you do have soil. If you don't have any soil, a couple of things I say: either find the right plants for your location, or start aerating. Start trying to build up your soil. I'm a huge fan of aerating, of core aeration. I really don't have any experience with liquid aeration. I know that a lot of people use some kind of liquid aeration on their property. I just don't know if it does as good a job as core aeration, where it's pulling out, manual little plugs out of your yard to break it up, to add more space for roots and water to get down in there. And then add a layer of compost or topsoil. I lean more toward compost. Add it on there, try to add a little bit, half an inch or less, every year, to build up the nutrients and the density of your soil. Because again, there's no point in watering if you don't have any soil to hold that water in. Runoff. If you have a lot of runoff on your property, well, if you have a big slope like this big hill where water's just going to run right off, this is a slope too, or maybe it could be caused by misaligned sprinkler heads where this property is running off, or it's running too long. There's different ways to irrigate rather than watering one cycle all at 20 minutes or 30 minutes at a time. That's too long in most cases for the water to even soak in. It's going to hit the soil is going to hit its capacity, especially with our clay soils. It's not going to be able to absorb any more water, and then the rest of it is just going to start running off the property. So we really like to talk about cycle and soak irrigation, or multiple start times, where you I was going to grab one of these controllers, but it's probably not going to help, where you can put in multiple start times, run it for a shorter amount of time, like 10 minutes, run everything, run all your zones, give it time to soak in, come back that same morning and run it again, like at 1 o'clock in the morning, run it, 3 o'clock in the morning, run it. That way there's chance for the water to soak into the ground. I can really go into that a lot more detail. So I'm happy after this if somebody has questions about how to set up your controller with multiple start times. I brought some controllers here where I can show you how to do that if you're unfamiliar, because it is very easy to do, but it sometimes gets confusing, I know. So we can do that. Good coverage. If you have an irrigation system, a lot of times people think they have too many sprinkler heads, and they want to cut a whole lot off. In a lot of cases, like this picture down here at the bottom, this is an example of, that picture, both of these pictures are examples of good coverage. This is an ideal irrigation system where water is going from one sprinkler head to the next sprinkler head. You can see it overlapping. That's ideal. That's what you want. You want water from one sprinkler head to go to the next head, and then it overlap, where every area is getting watered by more than one sprinkler head. If you were to start cutting off sprinkler heads, you would just reduce the amount of water that the area is getting, and then you'd probably have to water longer. But just saying it's a good layout, it's a good design. What's also beautiful about this picture at the bottom is you can see a lot of these individual water droplets. You can see them, so you know that it's not high pressure, that if you can see those drops, you know that they're heavy enough, they're going to fall down onto the ground and water your property. So I think it's just a great picture. Here's some examples of poor coverage. And maybe people who complain about, oh, my area is not getting any water. Well, I put, you know, my little board over the sprinkler head, so nothing's gonna get any water. I was just at this house a couple, like last month maybe, and I don't know what's going on here. I really want to walk over there, but you see, like, there's this brand new fence. There's this 6 inches. I don't know, like it's this little tiny 6 inches, and then there's 3 sprinkler heads along the driveway. And all they are doing when they're running is watering this fence. Like they're starting to ruin the fence already. There's like 1, 2, 3 sprinkler heads. Like, why are those sprinkler heads? Either the fence was never there and it's a new fence, or I don't know. They just need to cut off. In my opinion, cut off all the sprinkler heads, put maybe some rocks, put some little mulch down there, because it seems like such a small area right next to the driveway. So it's so silly. This we probably see, this is at a commercial property, obviously. Oh, why is this area over here dry? Well, it's because all the water is hitting the light pole and just bouncing right back off. My goodness. This picture, you see this a whole lot too. The top of the hill is really dry, the mid part of the hill, because these sprinkler heads are so low. They're not even popping up. There's no way that water's able to get up on top of that hill like it's supposed to. So it's just horrible coverage. And then one thing that I think everybody's probably guilty of, myself included, I do have a sprinkler system at my house, but you have to know where you're going to plant, where your sprinkler heads are located if you're going to plant plants in front of it. Because if you're planting something right in front of that sprinkler head, obviously when it grows, it's just going to block that. And then the rest of your plants aren't going to get any water. If they even need water is maybe what I should say. Maybe we're planting things that once they get water to be established, they don't need much more. And then this middle picture, you see all that, it looks like it's just all a mist bath right there. All that water is really just high water pressure, and that the irrigation system has high water pressure, so it's just misting up and it's just gonna blow away. This is water that's not going down onto the property because it's just too fine of a particle, so it's getting blown away. So the water pressure should really be reduced in that. But I see this kind of ridiculous stuff, like that fence. I see that stuff all the time. So crazy. Where people don't plan where their sprinkler heads are when they're getting new fences. Crazy. Next thing is seasonal scheduling. Like, we shouldn't just turn our sprinkler systems on, leave them on, and then turn them off. You know, our water usage should more look a bell curve, if anything, where it's the lowest in the wintertime, gradually increasing in the spring, maybe hits its peak at summer, and then comes back down in the fall, and then lowest at the wintertime again. It shouldn't just be a constant. We need to pay attention to the weather conditions, pay attention to, you know, rain events, take advantage of the free rain. Rain is always, we know that. I'd say everybody here knows that rain is better than the city's tap water for your yard. If it's going to rain, turn off your sprinkler systems. Get a rain sensor. I've been trying to think of a really good question to ask. I was going to give this rain sensor away for, you know, as a door prize today, if anybody needs it. But I still haven't come up with a really good question to ask, to say whoever needs it and do it. What else? Weather-based. I was just going to mention briefly weather-based irrigation controllers. There's a lot of new controllers on the market. They've been on the market for a few years, that do connect to the internet, that do take weather conditions into account and adjust your irrigation system per current weather conditions. So maybe if rain is predicted, it's not going to water today, it's going to turn the system off. It's going to adjust the pro and con. It's going to adjust your watering schedule. It might increase it in the summertime as things get hot, but it will decrease it in fall and winter as they cool down. So there's pros and cons to it. I have one at my house that I've had for several years that I've been kind of testing out. I mean, again, pros and cons. I'm happy to talk to anybody about that as well. Let me speed up here a little bit. I think I have a lot of irrigation stuff too, because that's what most of our water is used for around here, is irrigation usage. So I talk a lot about that. That's what I do a lot with my job, is talk to people about irrigation systems. You know, let's look, if you just do an annual checkup right before you turn your system on for the season. So maybe this month, sometime next month, just turn it on, run it manually, 1 or 2 minutes per station, and visually look at it. You can catch really easy little problems like broken sprinkler heads, and get those fixed before you start watering and you start wasting a lot of things. There's all kinds of problems that I see. I've taken all these pictures at people's houses here locally of problems that I see, broken sprinkler head, broken sprinkler head. This is another like ridiculous. Why is my lawn all dead? Well, my sprinkler system is all it's doing is spraying the fence. So look, it's green down there at the bottom of the fence, but that's all the sprinkler system did. That's all this head did. It just turned back and forth and watered that fence. And that was it. So I'm like, was that fence put in a new location? Was it moved? That sprinkler head just needs to be changed to a different one. It's just so crazy to me. How people don't think about this. This picture, it's hard to tell what it is. It's really also funny though. It's like the side of a house. We're looking at it kind of down. The brick part is the house. The bottom, this lower portion is a patio. And then that's the hole they left when they were pouring the concrete for a sprinkler head. So there's a sprinkler head right there that would pop up and still water with a sprinkler system. I'm like, what is this? Why wasn't that just capped off and the whole thing cemented over? It made me laugh. I'm like, okay. But it's just so weird. If that ever got a leak, I don't know, how are you going to fix that? So it's funny to me. I do want to say one thing. If you do have a sprinkler system, or if you're thinking of having one installed, or if you have somebody come over and work on it, by law, they're supposed to be licensed. The state of Texas does license people to work on irrigation systems. You have to have an irrigation license. So I know a lot of people have handyman work on their systems, or have a friend, install their system. Well, truly, you need to have a licensed irrigator. So I just wanted to throw that plug out. The TCEQ monitors all those licenses and issues them. You can search for, licensed people in the area at this website. But it's good to have that. They're required to have lots of, training every year, CEUs. And really, one of the last things I want to say is we really want to slow the flow. I was trying to throw a whole bunch of things into this last point here, one of these last points, slow the flow. I want to talk about keeping water usage low to the ground. Here we go. I don't know if you can see up here, this very top picture, there's a fence. This is someone's backyard, and this is a sprinkler head that's up on a very tall riser. And then here's a sprinkler head, and it's spraying just all out into the air. And this thing was I'm just over 5 feet tall. It's like, it was at least my height, just spraying out into the backyard. And again, why are we having the sprinkler head that tall? Obviously, at some point there was bushes, I'm sure, is what the story is. But if you're spraying water that high into the air, what's going to happen? The wind's going to get it, and it's just going to go and, reseed the air. It's going to go into your neighbor's yard. You're paying for that water, and you're not getting any beneficial use out of it. It's not doing any good for the plants. The leaves of the plant don't need water. The roots of the plant do. So that's why it's good. Drip also has its pros and cons. I'm not going to get into that too much, but say drip is fantastic because it's not spraying water into the air. It's keeping it low to the ground, keeping it at the root where the water should be. It really doesn't need to be sprayed into the air. And I was trying to think of something catchy to say. What can I talk about rainwater with just a little bit? And all I could think of was slow the flow. Why, when you see a new house built, or maybe your house, my house was this way and it was built in the 90s, all the rain gutters are always pointed to the driveway. Like, get that water out of here. We don't want it touching our grass. If you look at it, it's so funny. I'm like, turn it around. I always turn them around, take off that little bottom part, turn it so then it does stay in my grass, stay in my flower bed, stay here. I want to keep that water on my property. We all should want to keep that water on our property. We don't want the gutters to be turned to the driveway and just it's nasty. Get that water out of here. It's good. Rainwater, it's the best water out there for our plants. So we should try to think of ways to keep it onto our plant. So this bottom picture obviously is not from around here. I just found it online, but it's just so beautiful. And it conveys the idea of what I'm trying to get at is some kind of berm, some kind of natural barrier that's just beautiful. When it's watering, say this is your house, and it waters and you don't want it to go into your driveway or the street. If you have some type of natural barrier to keep that water onto your property to allow it to soak down into the ground, think of all those inches of water then that you don't have to water. You don't have to worry about watering your yard because you have just kept all that rainwater. You've helped maybe refill the aquifer depending on where you live. But something, say, relatively simple. I think this looks gorgeous. It's just, the same plant where, oh, I don't even know what this plant is, but lavender, is that what somebody just said? I say it might be. Beautiful. I think it's a great idea. It's just firm. That's what these other things are here. Here's a sloped yard, and you see it ends in this rain garden, essentially, where the water will be collected in the pond, and then it's going to soak into the ground, so it stays there. Same thing here. I've just found this picture, again, trying to convey some things like it's a steep yard, and then they have these logs kind of half buried into the ground. That way it slows the water down, keeps it onto the property. The Williamson County landfill has that. That made me think about it. I was over there helping out doing a cleanup there a few months ago. And there's one area where we were working where there's just logs down on the ground, and it's stopping the water. I assume that's what it's for. That's what I was thinking. It's there to stop the water from rolling down that hill. Fantastic idea. I know we don't have big yards, and your HOA wouldn't allow you to do something like that realistically. Why is that log in your yard? Get that out of here. But I think as much water as we can keep on our properties, the better. It doesn't need to go down into the storm sewer. Here's my bonus question. Does anybody even know where does that storm, when the water goes in the storm drain, where does that water go? Who knows? Who knows where that water goes? Raise your to the creek. Yes. If you need a rain sensor, you can have this one. That's exactly where it goes. It does not go to a treatment plant. It does not get cleaned. So if you see trash along the roadways, they pick up that trash so it doesn't go down into the creeks because it just gets washed down there. Okay, and I know we're getting low on time. We have to talk about rainwater harvesting if we're going to talk about water. I just want to throw in rain tanks and rain catchment systems come in all types of shapes and sizes. Here's just a few. I've seen around. I like this one a whole lot. In the top right-hand corner, it looks like a fence, and it's actually attached to this person's fence. And it's maybe 2 inches thick, and the water, it fills up from underneath, but it's all full of water. It's kind of their catchment system's real interesting. I kind of like this beehive looking one too, or this big green one on the top top left-hand corner, but just all different shapes, all different sizes. And then my last thing is, of course, mulch. I think we all know that. And I think we know to use some type of live mulch, like a hardwood mulch or wood, so that way it decomposes into the ground, adds a little bit of nutrients back into the ground. I'm not a big fan of rocks, but I will say I do like rocks. In this location next to a pool, these are big rocks. That way they aren't apt to get pushed into the pool if there is a big rainstorm happening. They're heavy enough to stay in that one location. And it looks like it's a shady location, so it's not going to get very hot. So I like that too about the rocks. What I don't like is I was at this person's house and I took this picture. There's a sprinkler head right here in this corner, a sprinkler head in this corner, and they were running. And it's like, what are we watering in the sprinkler bed? It's rocks. Those rocks don't need the water. So this is where I'm saying common sense, like turn off these sprinkler heads if you're going to do something like that. It's so silly. It's so silly to me. And then this is over at La Frontera, and this picture is from a long time ago, and I honestly haven't been there in a while just to see if they still have all this granite gravel. But when this property was brand new, I thought this was the craziest idea. It kind of looks okay, but think about when it rains, this is a slope. You got the street right there. It's going to just take all that granite gravel and take it right into the street, right into the storm drain. So I think a bad idea for that. And then it would just get hot. Rocks are not cool. So common sense, use a lot of common sense. That is my last slide. So I'm happy to take questions after this if there's any time or anything, but really when it comes down to water usage outdoors, a lot of it's common sense. If you wouldn't be standing out there with your garden hose watering something, you do not need to have your sprinkler system watering it. If you're behind your trash can, doesn't need the water. Next to your air conditioner unit, does not need the water. The little space between your shed and your fence does not turn off all those sprinkler heads because They are a waste, and I just see them all over the place because every little thing, you're turning off like 3 gallons a minute, you're turning on 5 gallons a minute. You know, that savings will add up every time you run your sprinkler system. Yeah.
People who do things like that say they have to water their foundation. Is that true?
The question, do I need to repeat? Well, the question is, people who do that type of thing say they need to water their foundation. I try not to get into the foundation discussion because what I've heard, I've talked to some foundation people. I can say it's true or it's not true, depending on who you ask. I have heard if you're going to water your foundation, you always need to water your foundation. If you don't water your foundation, don't ever water your foundation. It needs to stay at a constant or pretty consistent moisture level. So you either do water it or you don't. Like it always stays dry or it always stays wet. That's what I've heard. I try not to, I leave that to people to make their own decisions about it. I'm not an expert on, I do not personally water my foundation, but I don't. I did bring some free, yeah.
First slide, bamboo, what was that?
The first slide of the bamboo.
It's the wallpaper on.
Oh, that's not, that's just on the, yeah, I was gonna say, that's my backyard. Yeah.
A little bit about the programs that Round Rock offers.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm gonna just walk over here and grab a piece of paper that I brought. So the question is, talk about some of the programs that Round Rock offers. Funny is I brought a list here for those of y'all here. It's dual-sided, but Round Rock has a lot of water conservation rebate programs that are all listed out here. We do things like irrigation, rebate for irrigation checkups, different irrigation system components, new toilets, shower heads, bathroom faucets, efficient clothes washers, rainwater harvesting equipment, lawn aeration and compost. So a lot of different things. We have a service where like I'll come over to your house. I might take a picture of it and make fun of you at some point in a presentation. Just kidding. I take some pictures of some really beautiful stuff too. I just feel like I never show them. But we can come over to your house, you know, give advice. It's like an irrigation evaluation or checkup where we'll offer a recommended watering schedule, tell you what things might need to be fixed or repaired or replaced at your house. Different cities do that too. Georgetown has that same program. Cedar Park has that same program. Leander has that same program. So there's a lot of places that offer that. And then I also have on the back of this paper, the LCRA rebates. If you do live in Cedar Park, Round Rock, one of the muds of Round Rock, you can, Leander, I'm trying to think who else. It's listed on here. You can apply for these LCRA, Lower Colorado River Authority rebate programs. So you can double dip if you live in Round Rock. And then there's also, you know, they have rebates on kind of the same things, irrigation system checkups, pool covers, different irrigation components, pressure reducing things, compost and mulch, aeration. So a lot of good programs that we have here, but I have the flyers here at the table. I feel like I need to say, we also have a rain barrel sale going on. It ends on March the 25th. You do not have to be a Round Rock Water customer to buy a rain barrel, but I have little flyers about that, or it's also on the Round Rock website. They're just 50-gallon barrels, you know, so they're going to fill up pretty quickly, but still think a barrel, you know, it's better than nothing. You need to start collecting that water and keeping it on your property. I brought a lot of other stuff that I was going to talk about, but I get off topic a little bit and have always a lot to talk about. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jessica, and thank you to everybody online, and we'll see you next month.